I always want to press things into deeper terrain. So when I start thinking about what the divine is, it's never one of those things that I can just rest in general received wisdom. I think this is the hallmark of what it means to be a philosopher of some sort, is that you're always trying to go deeper and deeper, peeling back the layers of the onion, so to speak, about that which is generally presumed. So on this Easter weekend/week, I guess my thoughts have turned to what the divine might be. And of course, when this question comes up, I'm always reminded of the great Zen masters who, whenever one of their students asks what something is, they'll smack them with a cane. Now, of course, I'm not advocating that type of physical reprimanding, but there's something amazing about that quickness to say, don't be so quick to ask what something is. Maybe it's better to start asking, how do things take certain form? Under what conditions do things appear? How do things appear in the ways that they appear? And when we start asking questions in this way, we really open ourselves up to the possibility that the divine might be something even more than we could even possibly imagine, based on what we currently presume. So then, how can we think about the divine? Under what conditions does the divine show itself? And how might this have any sort of bearing on the Easter story? I guess I tend to think of the divine as being that which is fully infinite, beyond all possibility of understanding what is graspable, of what is presentable, of what is given to us. So then that means that the divine is simply that which is completely beyond. Now, what it means to be human seems to have some sort of relation to encountering that infinity, but at the same time recognizing that we can't measure up to that infinity. So maybe it means something along the lines of being torn between the infinite and the finite. And to be human is to be grounded perpetually in that state, perpetually anxious that the infinite is too much for us and that finite reality is just a bit too small for us. So there are always these efforts to try to transcend, if you will, to overcome, if you will, the limitations of finitude as we aim towards the infinite. And maybe this is what we can get most out of the Jesus story and the Easter myth, that what Jesus represents isn't some sort of representation of God that has come to earth, but rather it's an expression of the divine, among many other various expressions of the divine, as that which stands in between that reality that is between infinitude and finitude. So then what does the resurrection mean under these conditions? Well, perhaps it has something to do with an aspiration to transcend. In ancient philosophical and theological terms, it was referred to apotheosis, that is a sort of transcending, if you will, to becoming what God is. It's often said, what God is, man might become. And maybe there's something in this that we can look to the resurrection as a sort of like aspirational narrative, a narrative that seeks to try to do better than what the conditions of the world presently offer. Of course, approaching the divine is not so nice and easy as a lot of seeker-friendly movements paint it out to be. In the Old Testament, it was always terrifying to approach an angel. It was always terrifying to approach God. Even in ancient Greece, before coming to the oracle at Delphi. In Islam, it's terrifying to come before the divine. In many of the ancient traditions of the world, it's always been something that is a fraught endeavor, but nevertheless, there's something important about it. It might tear your world apart, but it will open you up to possibilities that we can't fully fathom under the present conditions. So perhaps this is what we can learn this Easter, that maybe there's something about the dangerous path of spiritual transformation, the dangerous journey that can befall somebody if they undertake any type of spiritual journey, but the joys and the wonder that can pull us out of the everyday are beyond what we can possibly imagine. They surpass anything that we can think of under the present conditions, and maybe that is something worth struggling for. So happy Easter, or whatever it is that you're celebrating. I hope you're having a lovely time. I'm on holiday here up in the kind of northern coast area of New South Wales. I love you. I'll keep posting more stuff coming this week. And of course, we'll be back to regular next week with more Dancing with Ideas and staying grounded.